Canelo, you a bitch. I'm putting it out there.
So what I do, YouTube? It's your boy KD in this thing, and I'm back at y'all again with another video. Okay, so before we get going on the video, man, y'all know what to do. Go ahead, hit the like button, and if you're new here, be sure to subscribe one time for your boy, so we can continue to grow like we need to grow on this channel, man. Y'all know what time it is, bro. So yeah, y'all see what the title of the video is. Terence Crawford will destroy CANELO Alvarez if ... Alright, so as y'all know, one of the biggest fights in boxing is coming up in just a few short weeks between Terence Crawford and CANELO Alvarez. As y'all also know, Terence Crawford will be moving up 3 weight divisions in order to get in the ring with a CANELO Alvarez. Now, with that being said, anyone who knows anything about boxing knows that jumping up in weight class is kind of a tricky thing, right? It's pretty tricky. The reason that it's tricky is because everything changes from weight division to weight division, right? Your skills remain the same, but your body responds differently depending on how much weight you're carrying around, right? Not only that, but your opponents also hit a lot harder the higher up in weight you go, right? You carry around more weight. That weight translates into mass, which usually translates into power because you throw punches using your body weight. If you don't box, you probably ain't gonna know what the hell I'm talking about. But for the people that boxed before and then no boxing, you get what the hell I'm trying to say, right? More weight typically translates to more power, right? And naturally bigger guys are typically gonna carry more power than naturally smaller guys. So these are just some of the things that change when you move up in weight, right? The fact of the matter is this: skill for skill, pound for pound, CANELO Alvarez can't fuck with a Terence Crawford, right? He can't fuck with Crawford, not on any level, right? Not on any level. Footwork, IQ, you know what I mean? Nothing. Defense, offense. I mean, he can't fuck with Terence Crawford, period, right? But with the fact that Terence Crawford is moving up 3 weight classes to fight CANELO Alvarez, it's going to come down to how his body responds to the weight jump at the end of the day, right? Because we know skill for skill, CANELO can't fuck with Terence Crawford. But is Terence Crawford's body going to fuck with Terence Crawford is what we really want to focus on, right? Now, with that being said, I believe that there are some ifs that we got to talk about, right? Ifs, right? There are some ifs because we don't know. Terence Crawford don't really know if we keeping it a buck. There are some ifs that we need to take into consideration, right? If these things happen, Terence Crawford will dominate / destroy CANELO Alvarez, right? He'll destroy him. Not saying that he can't win the fight even if these ifs don't take place, but it'll be a much harder fight if they don't, right? Versus if they do, right? And I know it sounds like I'm speaking in code and shit right now, right? But I promise you it's gonna make sense in a second, right? I promise you. And the ifs that we're going to talk about, they're going to be very reasonable things, right? We don't need Canelo to get struck by lightning, or we don't need him to fall off of a moving truck or anything like that. We don't need nothing like that to happen, right? We just need very reasonable ifs to take place in order for Terence Crawford to go in there and completely dominate CANELO Alvarez, right? All right, cool. If number one, if Terence Crawford's power translates from 147 to 168, that is trouble for CANELO Alvarez, right? Trouble, right? If his power translate, it's trouble, right? Now, why do I say this? And when I say this, let me just also mention the fact that we don't need Terence Crawford to be a super hard puncher. We don't need him to be Archer, Betcher, Beeve, or anything like that, right? At 168. All we need is for Terence Crawford's power to at very least keep CANELO Alvarez honest, right? That's all we really need. All we really need is for CANELO Alvarez to respect his power, right? Because if Crawford comes up to 168 with respectable power, CANELO Alvarez won't be able to come forward recklessly, right? He'll have to plan his attacks much more methodically and much more carefully, right? He can't just come forward just throwing punches all crazy, right? He can't just do all that shit, right? Out of fear of getting hurt and potentially put down, right? So he'll have to be more careful and he'll have to think more, which plays right into the hands of a Terence Bud Crawford, because if it comes down to a boxing match, Terence Crawford is going to win that all day, every day, right? Canelo's only opportunity to win this fight is to not make it a boxing match, right? It's to turn this into a fight, right? But we know that when it comes to CANELO Alvarez, he's not that type of fighter, right? He's more of a counter puncher, more of a boxer puncher. And that's what you want to keep him as, because if it's boxer puncher versus boxer puncher, the superior boxer puncher is going to come out on top. And we know that that's Terence Bud Crawford at the end of the goddamn day, right? So if Terence Crawford's able to carry his power up to 168, and it's respectable power for CANELO Alvarez, oh yeah, that is the recipe. That is a recipe for disaster for CANELO Alvarez. And that is the first if that will allow Terence Crawford to then dominate CANELO Alvarez, right? So that's if number one. Now, if number two. If Terence Crawford's stamina is able to hold up at 168 pounds, Canelo's in trouble, right? If his stamina is able to hold up at 168 pounds, Canelo's in trouble, right? The fact of the matter is this. A big reason why a lot of people are unsuccessful moving up in weight is because they're not conditioned to carry the extra weight in a real fight, right? They end up gassing out. They gain all this extra weight without realizing that carrying around all that extra weight has a severe effect on your stamina, right? And the fact of the matter is, if you run low on stamina in a professional fight, a high level fight, an elite level fight, a 12-round championship level fight, that's a problem. That's a big problem. And we know that with this fight with CANELO Alvarez, 9 times out of 10, it's probably gonna go the distance, right? Probably, right? And the reason that I say that is because Canelo is notorious for having a pretty solid chin, right? That's, there's not a lot of good things I can say about Canelo Alvarez, but one good thing I can say is he's really good at getting hit in the face, right? He is. He's really good at getting smacked around, right? So with that being said, Crawford is going to need to be conditioned well enough to where he can go 12 rounds in this fight, period, right? And the disadvantage that he has in this fight is that he doesn't necessarily have the experience at the new weight class in order to guarantee that his conditioning will hold up. This is going to be a new thing for him, right? But one thing I can say for sure, if his conditioning holds up at 168, it's a problem for CANELO Alvarez, because it means that Crawford will be able to box CANELO Alvarez for 12 rounds and win a unanimous decision. So with that being said, if his stamina holds up, yeah, he should be able to dominate CANELO Alvarez. So that is if number 2. If number 3. If Terence Crawford doesn't get old overnight, right? If he don't get old overnight. Look, the fact of the matter is, Terence Crawford's 37 years old. He's going to be 38, I believe, this year, right? For most fighters, for most professional athletes, 36, 37, that's usually where you hit your limit, right? You do have the genetic anomalies, like people like LeBron James and things like that. But for the most part, usually people hit their peak around 36, 37, right? Now, with that being said, if Terence Crawford doesn't get old overnight, he should be able to dominate CANELO Alvarez, right? He should be able to. Because again, skill for skill, pound for pound, he's superior to that of a CANELO Alvarez, right? So if he doesn't get old overnight, he should be able to dominate / destroy CANELO Alvarez, period, right? Getting old overnight, it's going to severely diminish all his attributes, right? Which will allow somebody like CANELO, as one-dimensional and as flat-footed as he is, to take the advantage in a fight like that. So again, if he doesn't get old overnight, once again, Crawford should be able to dominate / destroy CANELO Alvarez, right? Cool. If number 4, if Terence Crawford is able to take punches well enough, right? Now look, one of the main things when you move up, and I talked about this a little bit earlier, but one of the main things when you move up in weight is the guys at the higher weight, they hit a lot harder than the guys at the lower weight, right? With that being said, when you move up in weight, you're typically not experienced or conditioned to take punches at that higher weight. Therefore, they have a much more severe impact, right? Now, we don't need Terence Crawford to be Superman or nothing like that. We don't need him to eat bullets and no shit like that, right? We don't need nothing like that. But we do need him to be able to fight within his game plan and not be forced to make any kind of drastic adjustments, right? Because here's the thing. Terence Crawford is a very balanced fighter, right? Very good defense, very good offense, does an excellent job of switching between defense to offense and offense to defense. Now, if he's not able to take the punches well at 168, what that's going to force him to do is it's going to force him to have to fight defensively, right? Or be more defensive minded because he can't afford to get hit, right? With that being said, it's going to drastically alter his approach to the fight and make it a much more difficult fight, right? If we keeping it a buck. Now, if we're also keeping it a buck, Terence Crawford is that good of a fighter where he can still win a defensive fight very easily. I don't know how many of y'all seen the Breedis Prescott fight, but that was a fight where Bud Crawford was boxing very defensively, right? And ended up coming out on top. I believe he could do the same thing to CANELO Alvarez. But the issue is, if he's forced to fight defensively, that limits his options and approaches to the fight, right? Meaning he has to be more defensive minded than offensive minded. So again, it's going to make it more of a tougher fight, right? It's less likely that we're going to see Canelo get stopped or anything like that, and more likely that we're going to see a 12-round decision, right? So I say all that to say this. If he's able to take the punches well enough where he can work his game plan the way it needs to be worked, Terence Crawford's going to dominate Canelo Alvarez, right? Point blank, period, end of discussion, right? If number 5, right? And this is the final if Terence Crawford's able to carry with him his speed. Now look, Terence Crawford is a good enough fighter where he doesn't need to be super fast, because his timing more than makes up for what he would lack in speed, right? So he don't necessarily need to be super fast in this fight in order to be successful. But if he is able to be speedy, right? If he is able to bring that speed from 147 all the way up to 168, it's going to be problems for Canelo Alvarez, bro. Canelo Alvarez is a flat-footed, one-dimensional fighter, right? He ain't going to be able to keep up with that speed. He ain't going to be able to keep up with that foot speed, that hand speed. You can't hit what you can't catch, right? And we've seen a prime example of this when it comes to Canelo Alvarez in that Mayweather fight, right? Couldn't touch Mayweather, right? And if Bud Crawford's able to bring that same agility and speed and quickness up to 168 from 147, it's a long night for Canelo Alvarez at the end of the damn day, right? A long night, maybe even an embarrassing night, right? Maybe even an embarrassing night, right? So yeah, bro, those are my ifs, right? Those are my ifs. You know what I mean? If Terence Crawford's able to come up to 168 with these attributes, he should be able to dominate / destroy Canelo Alvarez, right? Now, with that being said, even if he doesn't come with any of these ifs, right? Terence Crawford still possesses the boxing IQ and the wherewithal to be able to still win the fight regardless. I'm just saying it'll be a much tougher fight for him if he doesn't come along with these attributes, right? So yeah, bro, let me know what y'all thoughts is, bro. What do y'all think about my ifs, right? And I know people be saying, they be like, if was a fifth, everybody be drunk. I know that. I know how niggas get down with that shit. But let me know what y'all think about this shit, right? What do y'all think about my ifs? What do y'all think about my analysis on this situation? You know what I mean? Do you think Bud Crawford's just gonna beat the shit out of Canelo? It don't even really matter. Do you think he is going to be able to move up to 168 with these attributes? Do you think he's not going to be able to move up to 168? What do you think, man? Let me know. Hit it up in the comment section below. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. And everybody, and I do mean everybody, be sure to hit that goddamn like button on your way out. But until next time, bro, I'ma holla at all y'all, man. Peace.
Man, sit your ass down.